Shabbat Shalom, everyone. We'll begin our service on page 10, Yedid Nefesh. Yedid Nefesh Avarachaman, Yedid Nefesh Avarachaman, Meshochav
Shabbat Shalom, everyone, and welcome. Welcome to those of you for whom this is your spiritual home, weekly, maybe not that often, but pretty regularly, for moments of your life, for moments of celebration in our community, for moments of holiday and worship. Welcome to those of you who are here for the first time or the first time in a long time, especially if you have arrived from somewhere else, physically or metaphorically, to celebrate this weekend's bat mitzvah, Maya, which tomorrow morning I got to see the preview on Tuesday. It's going to be great, and I feel comfortable saying that in front of her because it's true. And for those of you who are arriving here, landing here, maybe locally, but from someplace of a week that started long ago, much more than the 7 days often feel for us, if your week has been filled with moments of hardship and deep work to get out of something or else, or if it's been a week of lightness and a week of not eating bread half the week and then gorging on bread the other half of the week, you're in good company. This week, we are so happy to welcome, like I said, Maya Horowitz and her family from near and far. Tomorrow, her friends and her classmates to celebrate something that really is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that not every young Jewish adult chooses to do for themselves and their tradition and their family, but she has. So to bring in the light of tomorrow morning and the light of this entire weekend of celebration, it's our honor to invite up tomorrow's bat mitzvah Maya, along with her grandmother, Beverly Horowitz, and her great aunt, Shelley Lieberman, to help light the candles and help us say Kiddush. Come on up.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner להדליק נר של שבת.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light.
Amen. And Maya, if you will just lift the fruit fly protector napkin off of the Kiddush cup and hold that up for us. Kiddush is found on page 5. If you're able, please rise.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava u'vratzon hinchilanu. Zikaron lema'aseh bereshit, ki hu yom techilah lamikra'ei kodesh, zecher letziat Mitzrayim, ki banu v'acharta, ve'otanu kidashta, mikol ha'amin. Shabbat kodshecha be'ahava u'vratzon hinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh haShabbat. Amen. You may be seated. We welcome in Shabbat with psalms and songs beginning on page 12, Lechuna Ranana. Let's sing. Lechuna Ranana l'Adonai, Nariha letzur yishenu, nekadma fanav v'todah, bizmirot nariha lo. Shiru l'Adonai, shir chadash, shiru l'Adonai, kol haaretz, shiru l'Adonai, baruchu shemo, masru miyom leyom yeshuato, sapru v'goyim kevodo bechol ha'amim v'niflotav, ki gadol Adonai, u'mulal me'od, norahu, al kol Elohim, yai, 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 We turn to page 20 for Lechato D. We'll sing verses 1, 2, 5, and 9. Yadidadidai Lechato D. Yadidadidai likrat kala. Yadidadidai Pnei Shabbat. Pnei Shabbat Mekabela.
Yadadadadai likrat kala. Yadadadadai b'nei Shabbat. B'nei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat. Lechu ve'elcha. Ki mekor habracha. Merosh mikedem esecha. Sof maaseh b'machshavas ilai. Yadadadai, yadadadai lecha dodi. Yadadadadai likrat kala. Yadadadadai b'nei Shabbat. B'nei Shabbat nekabela. Itoreli, Itoreli. Yadadadadai likrat kala. Yadadadadai b'nei Shabbat. B'nei Shabbat nekabela.
We rise and face the entrance of our sanctuary in the back for verse 9.
Bohi v'shalom. Ateret bala. Gam besimcha utzola. Toch emunei am segula. Boi kala, boi kala. Yadadadadai lecha dodi. Yadadadadai likrat kala. Yadadadadai b'nei Shabbat. B'nei Shabbat nekabela.
You can be seated. Some of you know that this is the time of the week, every service that we have on Friday nights here, we get to do the best part of the week, which is invite up all of you who are here with us today, who are not quite to the age of B'nai Mitzvah, which means if you're not quite 12 or 13, or even if you are, but you haven't celebrated becoming B'nai Mitzvah, or even if you are and you don't plan on becoming B'nai Mitzvah, if you are anywhere from 13 or under, even if your B'nai Mitzvah is not till tomorrow morning, we'd like to invite you to come on up and join us up here for your Shabbat blessing and treat. If you're not sure if we mean you, we do mean you. So follow the experts. Come on up. This is the time of the week that fixes everything. Whether the week was awesome and now the awesomeness is over, or the week was hard, you can come on over and take a seat anywhere here you'd like. Sometimes if the week was really hard and we're looking for a way to make it all better, this is what does it, folks. So whatever you did this week, whatever you learned, however much you grew, we're so glad that you're here with us to celebrate, to get a blessing. Shabbat Shalom. told you, it fixes everything. It's the best part of the week. Typically, this is when we would invite also all of you young ones to go with our babysitting crew. We don't have babysitting tonight, but we've got something special for weeks like this. We started last week. This is our second ever. It's going to be the best one yet. If you see Isaiah right over here, if you are up to like 4th grade, you are welcome to join Isaiah if you would like. Right now, you guys will go and do a couple of activities and then be back before the end of the service, before dinner for sure. You can even take your Hershey Kiss with you if you would like. So if you'd like, if you're anywhere from little one who can walk and talk all the way up to 4th grade or so, you're welcome to head on over and join Isaiah there. And for those of you who have little ones or big ones who just need to move around and make a little bit of noise, please know that just outside our doors, in the courtyard, in any of the spaces available, you are more than welcome to head out there anytime, do whatever you need, and then come back in whenever you're ready. So gather your friends, gather your cousins, gather your loved ones, and Isaiah's right over there. And we'll see you all at the end of the service. We'll continue on page, right out the door, there you go. And we will continue our service on page 28 with Baruch Hu. If you're able, please rise. Page 30, we offer thanks to God with the blessing of Ma'ariv Aravim, thanking God for all of the moments of transition that fill our lives, little tiny moments that we don't realize till they accumulate, all the way up to big, huge moments surrounded by loved ones, things that show how much we've grown, whether anyone noticed or not. In the Hebrew, 6 lines up from the bottom of the Hebrew section, we'll continue together.
Umavir yom umevi laila, umavdil ben yom uben laila. Adonai tzvot shemo, Echai v'kayam. Tamid yimloch aleinu, le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai, Amari v'aravim.
On page 32, we give thanks to God for the source of all that we receive from God, from our community, from our tradition. That is the Torah, for its stories and its symbols, for the people it teaches us who to be like, for the people it teaches us who not to be like, for the relationships it teaches us that are important, and for the ones that it teaches us are actually not, no matter how much we might not want to believe it. Page 32, we give thanks to God for the Torah.
Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. Yaed 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 Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vahed. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vahed. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad.
You can be seated. We'd like to invite up tomorrow morning's bat mitzvah, Maya Horowitz, to help lead us in Ve'ahavta on page 36. And he doesn't know I'm about to do this, but if Logan would also join us up here, you can, yeah, that's right. Page 36.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך בדיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיהם. אני אדוני אלוהיהם אשר הוצאתי אתם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיהם.
Page 39 at the top of the page. We'll read together in English. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together. Page 40.
Say, Fele, Yaakov, וגלו מיד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני, גא ישראל.
Continue on page 44 with Yismechu. Those who keep Shabbat as we are now, by calling it a delight, will rejoice in this divine realm. Page 44.
ישמחו במלכותך, שומרי שבת וקוראי עונה, המקדשי שביעי, כולם ישמחו ויתענגו, מטובך והשביעי רצית בו וקידשתו, חמדת ימים מותו קראת, זכר למעשה בראשית, זכר למעשה בראשית.
As we arrive at the central portion of our prayer service, the Amidah, the Tefillah, we remember that prayer invites God's presence to suffuse our spirits and God's will to prevail in our lives. Prayer may not bring water to parched fields, nor mend a broken bridge, nor rebuild a ruined city, but prayer can water an arid soul and mend a broken heart and rebuild a weakened will. Page 46 and the following pages, if you're able, we invite you to please rise.
Adonai שפתי תפתח ופי אגיד תהילתך, ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו ואמותינו, אלוהי אברהם, אלוהי יצחק ואלוהי יעקב, אלוהי שרה, אלוהי רבקה, אלוהי רחל ואלוהי לאה, האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומל חסדים טובים וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לפני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע, מוריד הטל, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים. סומך נופלים ורופך עולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בגבורות, ומידו מלך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה. ונאמן אתה לחיות הכל, ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש.
You can be seated. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day, and may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh haShabbat. And on the bottom of page 57, we read together in English, followed by the Chatimah, the one-line closer in Hebrew. You are with us in our prayer, our love, and our doubt, in our longing to feel your presence and do your will. You are the still, clear voice within us. Therefore, O God, when doubt troubles us, when anxiety makes us tremble, when pain clouds the mind, we look inward for the answer to our prayers. There may we find you, and there find courage, insight, and endurance. And let our worship bring us closer to one another, that all Israel and all who seek you may find new strength for your service. Baruch atah Adonai, she'otcha levadcha b'yirah na'avod. Take a few moments now for Tfilat Halev, the silent prayers of our own hearts, whether found in the pages of the book or somewhere deep within.
Ratzon, imrefi, ve'yom libi lefanecha. Adonai tzori, Adonai tzori.
We turn to page 278. We count the days from Passover to Shavuot, from our festival of liberation to our festival of revelation. We count 7 weeks in total as we look forward to the treasure of Torah. First, on 278, this meditation before we count today's count. Hineni muchan umzuman lekayem mitzvat aseh shel sefirat haomer. I am ready to fulfill the mitzvah of counting the Homer. We say together, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al sfirat haomer. Hayom tisha yamim shehem shavua echad u'shnei yamim laomer. Today is 9 days, that's 1 week and 2 days of the Omer.
And we'll turn back in our Sidurim to page 253, and for just a moment, call to mind those in our families, in our circles, in our communities across the world who are in a state of incompleteness, who are in a state of needing prayers for healing, those who care for them, those who are enwrapped in something difficult. And we recall that it's those of us who show up and offer words of love that begin the process of healing for so many people. Mi sheberach avotenu v'imotenu Avraham, Yitzchak v'Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, v'Leah, hu yavarech et hacholim. May the one who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebekah, Rachel, and Leah, bless and heal all who are ill If you are holding anyone's name in your mind, in your heart, and you would like, we invite you now to whisper it to yourself. HaKadosh Baruch Hu yimalei rachamim aleihem, lahachalimam ularapotam ulahachazikam, vayishlach lahem mehera refuah shlema min hashamayim, refuat hanefesh, refuat haguf, hashta b'gala uvizman kariv, and omar, amen. May the Blessed Holy One be filled with compassion for their health to be restored and their strength to be revived. May God swiftly send each of them a complete renewal of body and spirit, and to that we can all say, Amen. Well, Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Cantor Margulius will be back with the kids in just a little bit, I promise. I'd like to ask you all this. If you've ever heard one of my sermons, you know I love to poll the audience and poll the congregation about something to start it off with. Just think to yourself, when was the last time that you spent a significant amount of time, like weeks or months, preparing for something? Like a wedding, or a bat mitzvah, or maybe something less enjoyable, like surgery, or moving across the country, or something joyful like retirement. When was the last time that you spent a significant amount of time, weeks, months, thinking about that? And these kind of somethings, these are the ones where the preparation itself becomes almost an entire season of our lives, with its own rhythms and its rituals, and its anxieties, and bolting awake in the middle of the night to write something on your list. Now think about that moment when, and you'll know when I say it, the one when you just suddenly feel that the preparation is over and the thing itself has arrived. No more preparations. You're in it. Whether you realized it or not, now it's actually happening. That threshold moment when readiness meets reality. To me, for any number of examples that I could think of in my life, there's actually quite nothing like that moment. Because no matter how thoroughly one prepares for it, crossing over that threshold into doing rather than preparing reveals so many things that the lead up and the rehearsals and the practices and the lists never could. You step through a metaphorical door and suddenly, well, the door is metaphorical, but the thing is not theoretical. You're not practicing anything, you're doing the thing. And it is magnificent and sometimes terrifying, and it's usually, quite often, sacred all at once to feel suddenly surrounded by this thing that's been out there that you've been moving towards but not feeling any momentum towards. That threshold, that transition, is precisely where our ancestors, the Israelites, are in this week's Torah portion, Parshat Shemini. Shemini opens with these three really simple but extraordinary words, Vayehi bayom hashmini, and it came to pass, and it was, on that 8th day. So this is the 8th day of a big celebration going on. 7 days earlier, on the first of those days, Moses consecrated his brother Aaron and all of Aaron's sons as priests, following God's instructions to the letter. A week ago, the holiness began. And then following it were 7 days of all of these ordination rituals, sacrifices, anointings with oil, all of these ceremonies inside the tent of meeting where Moses and Aaron would speak with God alone, and all of these things going on outside in full view of everybody. 7 days of deep, thoughtful preparation. And now, this 8th day, the day that the tabernacle, this dwelling place of God, now it goes live. Now we are crossing the threshold. What exactly does 8 mean to us Jews? It sounds like a riddle. And it would be a riddle if many of us hadn't just a week and a half ago sung a song all about numbers in many different ways at our Seders. Especially, you might know it, Echad mi Yodea, who knows one. It reminds us that there are these numbers, these touchstones in numbers that to all around our tradition, Judaism, is deeply, almost obsessively in love with numbers. For example, 1 God. 2 tablets. 3 patriarchs, 4 matriarchs, etc., etc., etc. And then we get, of course, to what we think in that song is the big main one. Where should we naturally be stopping as Jews? 7. 7 is the number in Jewish tradition. 7 days of creation, 7 days of the week, 7 branches of the menorah in the ancient temple. I know my voice sounds like George Carlin now, like just a list and a list and a list, right? 7 weeks, as Cantor just said, and led us in the counting of the Omer, 7 weeks of 7 days leading up to Shavuot. Harvesting, preparing for holiness. 7 years make up an agricultural cycle called Shemitah. You go to a Jewish wedding, and what do you hear? 7 wedding blessings. And then for the next 7 days after that, you're supposed to sing those 7 blessings to the brides or the grooms again, over and over again. In other words, 7 in Jewish tradition is the fulfillment of all of these things that exist here in our natural order, this world that God has created for us, things we can touch, things we can move through and around and visit. 7 is, in an essence, in a way, essentially God's way of saying that the world is perfect, the world is whole, the world is sufficient for us to exist in it. But then there's 8, sitting just beyond that number of fulfillment, just on the other side of whatever it is that's been completed. The 7 days of creation, the 8th day after your wedding, when you go back to work. And that's precisely this idea of it sitting on the other side of that sacred number 7, a little bit beyond it. That is what makes it so theologically electrifying to me. If 7 represents the fullness of the world that's been created, then 8 represents what happens when we transcend the physicality of all of that and we exist in something else alongside God, something beyond the natural order, something new and usually indescribable. There's some evidence from this in our tradition. The mitzvah of Brit Milah, a bris, the act of circumcision, does not take place completing the 7th day of one's life, but rather on the 8th day. And why? Well, Maimonides, Rambam, quoted the ancient rabbis, and he said that they understood that circumcision was not an act that nature dictates to us. It's not part of the natural flow of things that God has created around us. Rather, it takes place after that first complete cycle of 7 days, almost like it's saying, this child has now entered the natural world completely, but what's waiting for him is this world where his relationship with God will transcend everything. For Jews, 7 is the number of fulfillment, and 8 is the number of our covenant with God. There's also, of course, everyone's favorite holiday, Hanukkah. 8 days, 8 lights, 8 nights of a miracle that probably the oil shouldn't have lasted. In the Talmud, the Babylonian Talmud in Tractate Shabbat, the rabbis ask a question which sounds almost like they're mocking themselves and their tradition at first. They say, well, if there was enough oil for 1 day and then it lasted 8, why do we celebrate for 8 days? Isn't the miracle those 7 days? Right? After all, on that first day, they said the oil was just doing what oil does, burning. But it was that 8th day that marked not only 1 day of transcendence, but rather an entire cycle of 8 days, when this miracle sort of announced itself by transcending all of the ordinariness that was already there. 8 is the number of covenant. 8 is the number of miracles. There's also examples in some of the Psalms. Very bizarrely, Psalm number 6 and Psalm number 12, which I have to admit I was not terribly familiar with before I started this sermon a couple of days ago, both of them open with a one line that is bizarre, and it's hard to know what it literally means. It says, Al Hashminit, for the 8th. The 8th what? The 8th who? What were the other 7 things? We don't know, but it starts this love poem to God by saying that this love poem right here, this is for the 8th. Who knows what it was? But some of the rabbis said that there must have been, to accompany psalms being recited and sung, not a 7 7-stringed instrument that was common, that makes an entire music scale. They must have had an 8-stringed device that played a secret note that only could be played in those sacred moments. There's also a 13th century text, some of you I know have studied here with us, the Zohar, all about Jewish mysticism. This is where they have a field goal with the number 7, 8, 9, pick a number, they love it. What the teachers of Kabbalah, of the Zohar, the Kabbalists taught, is that there are 7 sefirot, divine attributes of God, which govern and give shape to the physical world around us. But there's one more, an 8th, called Binah, which is only there to surround God. This idea of Binah, of divine understanding, that pushes us, after the other 7 have been fulfilled, into a realm that exists beyond the temporal. Following? Me neither, but that's Kabbalah. And that's the language of mysticism, where the divine and the human intimately meet, whether we can wrap our brains around it or not. So this week, when Torah tells us that the tabernacle came to life on the 8th day, that Aaron and his sons fully stepped into their full priestly roles, that God's own fire descended from the heavens and consumed the offerings they gave up, that all the people could see, that caused all of the people to fall and prostrate themselves on the ground, it's also, the Torah is telling us, happening on the 8th day, and that cannot be thought of as incidental. It's not an accident that this happens on day 8, given all of this evidence. It's a theological statement about where God lives. The dwelling place of God is not part of the ordinary 7s of our world. It's somewhere there, on the other side of it, in the 8th. But Parshat Shmini does not stay very exultant or happy for very long, because right after this extraordinary scene of investiture and fully realizing the roles of priesthood, there is one of the most unfortunate moments of our Torah narrative. Aaron's 2 eldest sons, Nadav and Avihu, take their fire pans and they place incense upon it, and they offer what Torah calls Eish Zarah, strange fire or alien fire, fire that God had not commanded them to light. And from God's own presence, fire comes down and consumes not what's in their pans, but them and their lives. They die instantly on this day, the 8th day that transcends all of humanity and all of ordinariness, to say the least. Generations of rabbis have wrestled with this passage and this inclusion for millennia. And 2 Jews, 3 opinions, give us a couple thousand years, and there's no shortage of what they think it might have meant. Well, Nadav and Avihu were intoxicated, said some. No, they were acting arrogantly and they were impulsive. No, they just worked and did this stuff without talking to Moses or their father first. They didn't even talk to each other, some rabbis say. They may not be one truly correct reading of the scene, but it clearly illuminates something real about the dangers of unchecked religious enthusiasm, however sincerely it's done. But I really want to sit with one reading that I found the most humanly recognizable, and also, frankly, the most devastating. Maybe Nadav and Avihu were not acting maliciously. Maybe they weren't drunk or arrogant. Maybe they were simply overcome in the moment. They had just watched 7 days of preparation. They had felt the holy electricity amongst themselves, building to building, person to person. They had just watched divine fire come down from the heavens, and they were so filled with fervor and love and awe that perhaps they could just not stop themselves. They just rushed in. They brought their own fire, their own version of worship, their own interpretation of what this moment was supposed to be. Have a kid or work with kids, you'll know exactly what that looks like. And that, the Torah seems to be telling us with painful clarity, wasn't enough. The 8th day, the day beyond the natural order, the day of covenant and miracles, it demanded something more than just enthusiasm, no matter how genuine it was. That day also demanded attentiveness. It demanded that our ancestors, and by extension us, before we act, listen. that we understand that the threshold we stand on is a real one with real consequences, and that we have to cross over it responsibly. Moses says to Aaron after his sons' deaths, Hu asher deber Adonai lemor b'krova akadesh. Through those near me, I will be sanctified. And yet, in this moment of terrible tragedy, in this moment of no explanation for what had just happened, what's Aaron's response? Vayidom, and he was silent. You might be able to tell I have spent significant time this week with all of the words of this parsha, and especially these two, Vayidom Aharon, and Aaron was silent. In Hebrew, the root of this word Vayidom is Dalid Mem Mem, Damam. What it actually means, yes, sometimes to be silent, but also it can mean to be still, to be perfectly still and stationary. Despite his two sons having just died right in front of his eyes, Aaron doesn't fall apart. He doesn't even rage. He doesn't run away. He doesn't even cry, not here. He becomes silent and still. He absorbs something in that moment that no parent should ever have to absorb, and he meets it not with empty silence, it seems, but with a deep silence and with a deep sacred stillness. You could read Aaron's silence as Ramban, as Nachmanides does, as a form of acceptance, not passive resignation, but active steadiness of spirit. Or perhaps as Rashi does, drawing on Midrash, where he says that Aaron received a divine reward for his silence, as if God recognized the extraordinary moral and spiritual effort that that moment took for him. Or as the rabbis of the Talmud in Tractates of Achim say, when they ask why Aaron was never called upon to speak directly to God, and then they go on to answer that the trauma of this day must have been why. His Vayidom, they said, was not a temporary quiet. It was a full reshaping of his spiritual self. The rest of Parshat Shmini, I won't scoop Maya's Good Devar Torah tomorrow morning, chapters 10 through 11, pivots with real abruptness, as she'll talk to you about a detailed list of dietary laws, what can be eaten, what can't be eaten, what you can mix, what you can't mix. But I don't think that the transition is really as jarring as it seems at first glance. Yes, the dietary laws of kashrut at their core are about the same thing as everything else in this parsha, the sacred practice of paying deep, reverent attention to what it is that you're doing, about how you notice important things, about how you make distinctions. The word that the Torah uses again and again in this section is the root lahavdil, to distinguish or to separate, to make holy by its separateness. It's the same root that we use for the word Havdalah, the ceremony that separates Shabbat from the rest of the week. Holiness, Kedusha, is not just about what we feel all the time. It's about what we notice, what we choose, and what we do with it. So here's where I land with all of this, and what I hope some of you might carry with you. We live most of the time, if you will, in a world of sevens. A world that's sort of ordinary, even in its craziness. It's got familiar rhythms, even with all the things that disrupt us. It's got to-do lists and routines, even though at the end of the day, sometimes nothing gets crossed off of them. And the world, and that world that we live in, of sevenness, is genuinely good and genuinely necessary for us, of course. Don't underestimate the sevens in life. 7 matters. But every once in a while, life does put us on one of those 8th days, a real threshold moment. It's a day that sits just beyond the ordinary predictability of it all, a day that might include a death, or a birth, or a diagnosis, or a reconciliation, or a celebration. Some sort of beginning that feels unlike any beginning that has ever had before. These are the moments when the fire comes down from heaven, it feels like, when the stakes are unmistakably real, and when our response, individually and collectively, when our vayidom, our attentiveness, defines something essential about who we are. Shemini asks us, when you stand up on the 8th day, will you rush in ecstatically and impulsively with your own fire? Or will you pause and pay attention and listen to what's being done and said and make the distinctions that are needed and imbue the things that need enthusiasm with them, and then move forward. Aaron's silence, Vayidom Aharon, was not only a response to grief, it was also the first example of how we humans can stand at the edge of holiness without flinching, of how not to impulsively try to fill silence with noise, or to rush to make meaning out of something incomprehensible when we just can't do it yet. Aaron remains present, but still. And in that stillness, in that eighth dayness that he embodies, he goes on and continues. The work, his love, his relationships, his life, he tends to the sacred eternal flame that he's now in charge of with full attention from that moment through the rest of his life. So let's pay attention to the 8th days, because they will come, they do come. And when they do, we want to do them right. Whenever they arrive, let us find the quality of stillness and attentiveness in them and in ourselves. Shabbat Shalom. We will begin our concluding prayers on page 282 with Aleinu L'Shabeach. If you're able, please rise. Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol, latet gedula liotzer breshit, shelo asanu kegoye ha'aratzot, velo samanu kemishbechot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, vigor aleinu kechol hamonam, v'anachnu korim, umishtachavim umodim, Lifnei Melech Malchei Hamlachim Hakadosh Baruch Hu V'nemar V'haya Adonai L'melech Al Kol Haaretz Bayom Hahu Yeh Adonai Echad Ushemo Ushemo Echad. You can be seated. Even as we welcome in Shabbat with all of its joy and all of its resetting and relaxation, we of course take a moment at the end of our service, as we always do, to call to mind those who have lived and loved and helped us become who we are in all of our best moments, and who stay with us even though their time in this world may have already passed. Those who died at this time in years past on this occasion, on this weekend, those who died in recent days and weeks. If it's our custom here, at Touro Synagogue, that if you hear a name with whom you're linked in family, in friendship, in love of any kind, when you hear their name, if you wish, you're welcome to rise and stand at your seat before we all say the blessing together on page 294. As a community, Touro Synagogue and our extended family observe the period of Shiva, the first 7 days following the deaths of Ruth Goldstein Jacobson and Dr. David Allen Ray. The period of Shloshim, which we observe in the last 30 days for the deaths of Judith Lenore Feldman, Faye Levine Miller, Steve Bowman, and Rita Marie Guthrie. And the names of those who died at this time in years past: Kippy Abrams, Ike Block Jr., June Blumenfeld Kahn, Sam Cornsweat Sr., Roger Edmund Dewey, Dr. Suzanne Gollin, Thelka Kraus Heyman, Shanette Weil Mayer Kahn, Dr. Irving Aaron Levine, Lillian Wright Levine, Justice Walter F. Marcus Jr., Henrietta Lemley Marks, Erhard Mayer, Bernice Mexic, Louis Oakes Sr., J. Warren Oppenheim, Anna Maria Polnick, Leah Lichtenstein Pullman, Davida Roberts, Ethel K. Rosenbaum, Fanny Wexler Rubenstein, Jack Schenk, Eleanor Miller Schwartz, Judith Copps Scher, Sylvia Stone Shushin, Deborah Vanderlinden Sidelnik, Helen Manchel Spears, Sarah Lisa Spiro, Noah Weaker, and Frida Levy Zander Goldman. As my eyes and my hand come around the room, if there are any names that you wish to add, whether out loud or in your own heart, whether standing or remaining seated, you're welcome to do so. Zichronam livracha, may each and every one of their lives always be for a blessing. Turn to page 294, and we rise as a community in support of all mourners in our congregation and outside of it. Yit gadal v'yit kadash shemei rabbah, be'alma divrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'gala uv'yizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mivarach la'alam u'lamei almaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shmei dekudusha brechu la'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata dam miran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav hu ya'aseh shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us and to all of Israel, to which we can say, amen. You can be seated for just a few moments. It's our pleasure to share the bima, as always, with our congregational president, Kevin Wilkins, who has some Shabbat announcements to share.
Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you, Rabbi. Shabbat shalom, y'all. It's nice to see everyone here this evening. Those who are joining us on live stream, welcome. It's just such a wonderful community to be part of. Thank you, Maya, and your grandmother and great aunt for kindling the Shabbat candles tonight in preparation for tomorrow, which is going to go great. Thank you to our greeters, Julian Scott Silbert and Julie Kottman, for welcoming us so warmly tonight. Thank you to Sarah Gershon and to Sarah Tucker Lazarus for making sure that we're safe every time we come in here. Safety above all else is the #1 priority. As we come together in community, making sure that that is in place is essential to what we do. Thank you to the Shabbat Pulpit Flower sponsors. The Pulpit Flowers are given in honor of the bat mitzvah of Maya Horowitz by her grandparents, Loretta and Kuzma Teshvit, in memory of Eleanor Miller Schwartz by her loving family, in memory of Leah Lichtenstein Pullman by Laura and Walter Levy, and in memory of Lillian Wright Levine and Dr. Irving Aaron Levine by Marilyn and Alan Levine, Sydney Levine, and Donna and Louis Levine. Okay, so Shabbat morning begins tomorrow morning with Shabbat Shur at 9 a.m., followed by the bat mitzvah of Maya Natalie Horowitz at 10:30 in the main sanctuary. Mazel tov, Maya, it's gonna go great. Next week, our community will observe Yom HaShoah, the Holocaust Remembrance. There's a bunch of stuff going on, so I want you to pay attention on this one. On Tuesday, April 14th, we hope you'll join us for an evening of reflection at the National World War II Museum. The ceremony will include remarks from members of the local Jewish community and the museum trustee, Karen Rubin, followed by a panel discussion with historian Jason Dossie, playwright and Touro member Dodd Loomis, and Holocaust survivor Rose Lefkowitz Rosenkrantz. It's going to be an incredible evening, and I encourage everyone to come if it's possible. The powerful new stage performance of Only Miracles, written by Touro member Dodd Loomis and starring Touro members Alex Loomis and Jonas Chartok, will run from April 16th to 19th at the BB's Stage Door Canteen, and that is part of the World War II Museum. The play is the incredible true story of the Holocaust survivors Ed and Helen Lefkowitz, a story of endurance, of love, of legacy, As many of you may know, Only Miracles was originally developed and first seen here at Touro Synagogue. We hope everyone will have a chance to see this new iteration. It's a profoundly important story. Mazel tov to Dodd, Alex, and Jonas for all their work. And you can learn more about this as you reserve free tickets by scanning the QR in your order of service tonight. It is free, so if you can come, it would be just an amazing experience. And for those who saw it at Touro Synagogue, I guess maybe last year at this point, it was just a moving experience. So this next iteration is going to be fantastic. And we are so excited for Jazz Fest Shabbat on Friday, April 24th. It is almost here. Can you believe Jazz Fest is almost here? We hope you'll consider joining at 6 p.m. for Patron Fest, including festive dinner and drinks along with an exclusive performance by our amazing guest artist, Tanya Boyd Cannon. Jazz Fest Shabbat is so unique. It is so culturally aligned with who we are in New Orleans. And if I can encourage people to come on that Jazz Fest Shabbat, only at Touro Synagogue. You will never find it anywhere else. Reminder that the patron deadline to be listed as the Jazz Fest Shabbat program is Wednesday, April 15th, which is next Wednesday. Learn more at RSVP at jazzfestshabbat.com. That is jazzfestshabbat.com. All are welcome to join Shabbat dinner in the Grand Meyer Garden Pavilion this evening. Shabbat Shalom.
If you don't know Tanya Boyd Cannon's music, you should. I won't tell you in the sanctuary on Shabbat to download it, but she's incredible. We are going to close tonight with Oseh Shalom on page 343, followed by a few blessings so that we can enjoy our sumptuous meals, whether with family and friends elsewhere or here in the Grant Meyer Garden Pavilion. Page 343, please rise.
Oseh Shalom bimromav, Yaseh Shalom Aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol Yoshei Tevel, ve'imru, Amen. Oseh Shalom bimromav, Shalom Aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol Yoshei Tevel, ve'imru, Amen. Shalom Aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol Yoshei Tevel, ve'imru, Amen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, Hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. If you would, please do help us return the prayer books either to the back of the sanctuary or to the cart that's up here. Shabbat Shalom, everyone.